Sniping, wiping, striking, hiking, and Jamie Foxx? Get your tinfoil hats, folks! We got ourselves a conspiracy! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 10 Golden Frames, the show where we break down 10 frames from classic films of the 20th century and figure out what makes them great. I'm your host, Matt Caridi. Today's film comes to us from 1962, starring Frank Sinatra and directed by John Frankenheimer. It is The Manchurian Candidate, the story of an American infantry platoon who are set up and captured during the Korean War so as to be brainwashed by communists and weaponized against the United States in order to be used as a tool to disrupt and fix an American general election. This movie is 55 years old and frighteningly relevant in 2017 because even today, the Russian government loves to disrupt democracy in order to discredit it so that their citizens are tricked into not wanting full freedom and powerful oligarchs can maintain their power. What a time to be alive. I digress though. This movie is a piece of fine art. It's a gripping, oh shit, did that just happen thriller. And just as a heads up, we are going to spoil plot points of the movie. We won't give everything away because the movie's complex as hell, and we couldn't even do it if we tried, but there will be spoilers. So without further ado, let's get into the pictures.
A new American word. To believe that they are waiting out a storm in the lobby of a small hotel in New Jersey, where a meeting of the Ladies' Garden Club is in progress.
You will notice that I have told them they may smoke. I've allowed my people to have a little fun in the selection of bizarre tobacco substitutes.
Yeah, so that's some trippy shit. Our boys in uniform are thoroughly brainwashed, but as the audience, we see through the cracks in the facade because this scene is actually a dream that Frank Sinatra's having after the fact because the brainwashing is wearing off. Anyway, this frame is lit because of the strangeness of it all. To see American soldiers completely pacified and effectively helpless, the communists are made to appear more than just a worthy adversary. They appear smarter and more sophisticated than us. They can play with us and we can't do anything about it. It's unnerving. Thus, this frame is effective and, dare I say again, lit. Next frame.
Major, to your knowledge, have any other ex-members of your patrol had similar dreams?
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
So that was creepy, but the real question, why is this frame so good? It's symmetrical as hell. The room feels formal and esteemed. It's an important place. The symmetry tells us that. The set is dressed with high-ranking military men with very dour facial expressions and body language. I mean, the place looks like a war room. The leading lines of the desk direct our eyes to Frank, who is painfully aware of just how silly his story sounds, and he has no physical evidence to prove it, even though he knows deep down that it's true. Next frame.
That you no longer have my confidence.
Why, you're an idiot if you ask me. You're out of your mind. You no longer belong on the Senate
or
floor.
investigation by the defense
Get out of here. Where's
I am afraid you have lost your
Get
chance.
that man out of this room.
This matter is now the responsibility of the United States.
The bloviating man on screen is actually located right here. His character is a parody of the late Senator Joseph McCarthy. He's actually less of a parody, more of a carbon copy. The difference between the two is that the fictional Senator John Iselin is a meat puppet for the diabolical schemes of this woman, his wife. She's pulling the strings. She's the brains behind the operation. We can see the expression on her face. She's satisfied with her meat puppet's performance, and by showing the performance on a TV screen, we see this madness from the standpoint of an average American tuning in, while simultaneously seeing the mastermind of the stunt reacting to the stunt. It's visual storytelling at its best. Next frame.
Thanks, Ben. Sure, kid.
Shoot Bobby Raymond through the forehead.
Yes, ma'am.
We're back in dreamland, which is actually memory land, and this frame speaks for itself. The communists in the background are watching this exhibition with scholarly intrigue. This is a point of view shot, so we feel as though the gun is being pointed at us, which makes it all the more visceral. And I won't leave you hanging. This is how the scene plays out. It's very similar to this scene from Django Unchained.
I said, tell Miss Laura goodbye.
Bye, Miss Laura.
It's funny in Django, it's downright frightening in this movie. Same technique, different effect. I find it very interesting. Next frame.
I'm sorry to disturb you, sir.
Don't get any silly ideas about this ridiculous-looking bed jacket. It was my wife's. It's the warmest thing I have. Perfect for reading in bed at night.
I didn't know you were married, sir.
Well, she died nearly 6 years ago. But what the devil are you doing here at 4 o'clock in the morning?
What is he doing there at 4 o'clock in the morning? I'll tell you, he's there to kill the man in bed. He is Sergeant Raymond Shaw. He is brainwashed, and the communists are using him as an assassin. This frame is tremendous because we don't see the assassin's face. We just hear his lifeless voice in the frame. He's just a black shadow, the black inhuman shadow of death, and he's closing in on our unfortunate friend in bed who's absolutely trapped. Next frame.
You just cannot believe, Ben, how lovable the whole damn thing was. All summer long, we were together. I was lovable. Josie was lovable.
Here's our friendly neighborhood assassin reminiscing over lost love. He's absolutely drunk in this scene, hence the honest contemplation. And this is probably my favorite frame of the film. There are many ways to show a flashback in modern movies. It's usually accomplished through the manipulation of color, but since this movie is in black and white, John Frankenheimer opted for a prolonged cross-dissolve. It lets us see the memory and the man at the same time, which gives us the sense that we've entered his psyche. It is an elegant technique. It is beautiful cinema. That's a pretentious phrase, but it's absolutely true. Next frame.
Raymond, the time has come for us to have a serious discussion.
So here's the big spoiler. Raymond Shaw, our brainwashed assassin, is being controlled by his American operator, who just so happens to be his mother, and the wife of Senator John Iselin from earlier. She's working with the communists to disrupt the upcoming election. It's a truly grand conspiracy, but here's why this shot is great. She's centered in the middle of the frame, so our eyes are drawn to her, and she's flanked on her left and right by her son and a bust of Abraham Lincoln, both in profile, which encourages comparisons between the two because they visually appear to be equals. But what exactly do they have in common? I don't know. I think it's up for personal interpretation because there's no obvious answer. Next frame.
Actually, I haven't had so much supporting mail in the Senate in the last 22 years.
I'm very glad to hear that, sir.
The hell is that in your hand?
It's a pistol, sir.
Is that a silencer?
Yes, sir.
Why are you carrying a pistol?
Ominous is the word. This frame is ominous. We're looking up at our subject in the language of cinema. That means he's in control. But look how small he is in frame. He's belittled by the background. Thus, we have a paradox. He's strong but belittled. He's holding a gun, but he's not in control. You see, that's the paradox. He's doing something that every fiber of his being is telling him not to do, and that feeling is translated to the screen in this image. It is some of the best filmmaking we will ever see in our lifetime. Next frame.
Why are you carrying a pistol? Raymond, what are you...
Daddy, what is it? Raymond, no! Raymond, darling!
This shot is absolutely grotesque. The people that Raymond just killed are perhaps the only people on Earth that have ever loved him. One of them is dead on the floor and the other will be shortly. Our hallway victim and her father are both in the center of the frame, so our eyes naturally go back and forth between the two, looking at one, then the other in astonishment. This is one of those oh shit, did that just happen moments that I was talking about earlier, and no matter how many times I watch this movie, this frame and this scene catch me on the chin every single time. Last frame.
I should have known better. Intelligence officer, stupidity officer is better. Pentagon never wants to open up a stupidity division. They know who they get to lead it. Milt Raymond was theirs, he is theirs, and he'll always be theirs.
Aside from the depth of this image and the set design that makes this frame beautiful, the way I read the frame is simple. The silent head in the foreground acts as an indicator for how Frank feels. Scared, concerned, despondent, dumbstruck. Frank's screwed up and now he's waiting for something bad to happen. He's pacing back and forth in this scene, but the concerned head stays put as a stalwart reminder of the stress and uncertainty that Frank has to endure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those were 10 golden frames, and that's our show. If you liked it, thumb the video up. If you really liked it, subscribe. Your feedback, both positive and negative, is much appreciated. I'm just happy people watch. And speaking of watching, watch The Manchurian Candidate if you haven't. Even if I spoiled it for you, it's still one hell of a roller coaster. And until next time, keep watching movies.